Welcome back, my name is Keegan. Today's video is about this rod. This is a new rod that's just been released. This is the Nissin Zerosum Oni 7.3. This is a Japanese rod. I bought it and had it shipped from Japan, but I think actually Tenkara Adventure Outfitters here in the States now carries it, so check that out. It comes in two sizes, the 345 and the 295. I chose the 295 because a lot of my local creeks are very small, overgrown in canyons, and so I actually use the 280 to 320 size a lot, and I wanted to compare this to other rods to kind of contribute to the internet knowledge base. So if someone's considering buying this rod and spending the money or having it shipped from Japan, they have as much information as they possibly can to know maybe, is this rod for me or not. I find these kind of videos helpful, so this is my attempt to contribute and give back, if you will. The beginning part of the video, I cast it in my backyard versus the other rods that I have in the same 280 to 300 sort of size. Then I take it out on stream. I wasn't able to reach the spot that I wanted to go to, which last week I had like a 50 fish day. It would have been cool, but I still able to catch a couple fish in this really low sort of still stream. But also I can comment on what it's like to fish with the rod, right? To move on the stream with the rod. How comfortable is it? How's the casting? All that stuff I think is applicable. And then when I get back home, talk about more just about thoughts, reflections on how the rod is similar or different to the other rods in this test, and why you might want one or the other. I hope this helps someone. I look to videos like this for help when I'm looking to buy a rod, because we can't just go out and test Tenkara rods unless you got a buddy that has them. So I really like this rod. I highly recommend it if you're looking for a small creek rod with a full cork grip, because there's not a lot of those, and I really enjoy the grip, and it's a fantastic rod. Check out the video. There's chapter markers on the bottom, so if you get bored of any section, you can just skip to the next one. I hope this video helps someone make a decision about a small creek rod like this, whether it's this one or one of the other ones I chat about, and hope you enjoy.
Not a bad view, right? So I'm headed down to one of my favorite creeks to give this rod a try. It's a bit of a hike to get down, but I'll see you at the bottom. All right, here we are on stream. Air temperature 61, air temperature 69, water temperature 61. It's feeling a little cooler than it has been around these parts lately. Even as I was going down the poison oak that chokes the access trail was a little bit orange, maybe a sign of the fall that's coming at some point, although we're supposed to get more heat next week. Regardless, here we are. But before we do any fishing, let me send it to Keegan in the backyard to talk about where this rod that we're talking about today slots in with the other rods that I have of the same length. All right, this shootout has been prompted by the arrival of this Oni Nissin Zerosum 7.3 295. And I really like this length for my local creeks. And so these are other rods that are the same length. And I've arranged them in what I think will be softest to hardest rods. So the softest is this fiberglass Foxfire, and then this is the HM30 from Kurenai with that really soft tip. Then the Coco 290. Then I'm thinking it'll slot in here, the Zerosum Oni, and then I've got the Dragontail Kaida, one of my all-time favorite rods, and then the Tanuki Streamborn 290, which is pretty stiff. It's a pocket rod. You can see it's going to be stiffer because it's got more sections, but I still love that rod as well. So we're going to put a line on these and talk a little bit about how they feel different before we take this on stream in an hour or so. All right, we're going to start from the left. So this is the Dragontail Foxfire, and this is a fiberglass rod, and it's very flexy all the way down. So it throws a level line really well. There's a little bit of tip sort of bounce back or oscillation. And I think that's because the rod is flexing kind of almost all the way down to the handle. You can see it's flexing to right here, whereas the Oni rods tend to be just tip flex. But there's the Foxfire. And this rod's really fun, especially with small fish. You can feel every little wiggle of the fish. So let's move to the next one. All right, this right next rod is the Kurenai HM30. And this tip section is just insanely thin and insanely flexible. So much so that the updated version of it, I've heard, has a thicker tip section. But this is mostly tip flex because that tip section is so flexy. And this is a really fun rod for small fish because of that insanely thin, flexible tip section. You can just feel everything. Also, the rod is insanely lightweight. It's less than an ounce, so it's almost effortless. And it's a very relaxed casting stroke.
Just like, nice and slow. And the tip does all the work. Just a little flick of the wrist, no problem. All right, moving on to the Oni Coco 290, which is very much like this Kurenai, but a little more robust in the tip. All right, here's the Coco 290. This is 290, so a tiny bit shorter than the Kurenai, but it's a very similar casting stroke. It's just a little faster. The tip section is a little thicker. It's a little less flexy, but it's a similar, just effortless casting stroke, and it's a similar, very tip flexy rod. I mean, this is, when you cast, you can only see the maybe top 2 sections are flexing, as opposed to the Foxfire that was flexing almost all the way to the handle. This is my favorite small creek rod to date. It's so lightweight. It's also less than an ounce. It just feels like you're holding a magic wand. The line goes exactly where you put it, and yet it has backbone if you end up hooking into a larger fish. But you know, in my small creeks, the fish are usually under 12 inches, so it's really no problem. But it's easy to steer fish, easy to pull them out. So that's the Coco 290. And you know, Tom Davis said it's possibly one of the best small creek rod ever created, and I think time will tell, but it's my favorite right now, so I agree. All right, this is the new rod that I just got, the Nissin Zerosum with Oni's name on it. You can already tell it's a little different. The tip section is thicker, the Lillian is much thicker, and so we'll see what's going on. I like doing these rod comparison tests because when I want to buy a rod, especially ones you can't get in return and see in person, videos like this really help me when I'm deciding if I'm going to get a rod from Japan or whatever, how they compare to others. So this is the Zerosum. It's also pretty lightweight. It's almost twice the weight of the Oni and the Kurenai at 1.8 ounces, but the casting stroke is effortless. It's a little bit faster, and it definitely flexes much farther down on the casting stroke. It's not as much of a tip flex rod as the Oni and the Kurenai. It's more like the Foxfire, but it doesn't flex all the way down. It's more of like a 2 or 3 section even flex. But that's a nice casting stroke. It reminds me of the Nissin Airstage Fujiru rods. I have the 360 and the 330, and it reminds me very much of that. But it seems like accuracy is very good. I also love the full cork handle. The other 2 rods, a lot of small rods, they don't have a cork handle. I love the cork handle. It's thicker. I love the rounded butt cap that Nissin rods have. And I like, if I'm walking from spot to spot, to be able to hook the hook into the cork and just have it there out of my way. So I don't oftentimes end up holding the hook, and then if I get snagged, I end up hooking my finger. So this is the new rod that I'm gonna fish today. And it seems great. It definitely reminds me, it feels Nissin. It feels Nissin. I don't know if it feels Oni yet, but we'll see. All right, 2 more to compare. All right, next up we have the Dragontail Kaida pack rod. So this is a shorter length rod. I adore this rod. I think it's fantastic. And collapsed length is shorter than the full-size rods we were looking at. But in its shorter, this is a zoom rod, so it has 2 lengths. It's 320 and then about 280. So in its shorter length, it's comparable to these other rods. And this has a little bit of fiberglass in it too. And I love this rod. I think the casting stroke is great. I think actually this casting stroke is very close to the Zerosum that I just cast. It's got a little more tip oscillation than the Zerosum, but this has been a favorite rod of mine for a long time now. Yeah, I'd say that the flex is about the same. It doesn't flex quite as low as the Foxfire. The Foxfire feels, well, and we're talking about the Foxfire at its longest length is the same as this at its shortest length, so this would definitely be stiffer, and it is. The Foxfire is a bit of a noodle at its longest length. I like fishing it in the middle length, which is a little bit shorter, but I'm comparing rods of the same length today, so that's what we get. So it's less of a noodle than the Foxfire. The casting stroke feels very similar to the Zerosum. The handle feels similar. The weight it all feels great. And then if you extend it out, you have a little bit more reach. It gets more tip heavy, but the cast is great. I love this rod. Also, this rod is, got a pretty durable tip, and it seems like it can handle bigger fish than something like the Kurenai. If you really know you're targeting tiny little fish, then the Kurenai might be a good option. All right, last one is the Tanuki Pocket Ninja 290. All right, Tanuki Pocket Ninja 290. Beautiful paint job on the handle. This is much faster than all the other rods. It's still, I fished this a lot. It's a very accurate rod. The casting stroke
I mean, it's a little bit heavier. It's more sections. I think this is 2.3 ounces or something. It's not quite as effortless as the others, and it's much snappier. I don't think it's quite at the level of the Coco 290 where it's like a magic wand. You just kind of think and the line goes where you want it to. But this rod is good, and also for small creeks, it's great because you can really pull fish right out of holes easily. It's got a ton of backbone. You can steer fish easily. So I've really liked this rod. I don't find the handle to be as comfortable. It's not rounded off, kind of digs into my heel where I usually hold it. And I just prefer a cork grip unless the rod is insanely lightweight. That's why I kind of don't mind the grips on the Coco 290 and the Kurenai. In summary, the Tanuki Pocket Ninja is nice. I don't think it has the finesse of some of their other rods that aren't pocket size. But it is accurate. It just does it feels like a little clunky in the casting compared to the others right now. All right, I jumped back to the Zerosum just to cast it a couple more times. I think this is closest actually to the Kaida. Let's see. Okay, we're here back on the Kaida. I think it is closest to the Kaida. The Kaida in its shorter length is a little stiffer, a little more effort to cast because it's heavier, and a little more tip oscillation on the return after the cast. So it's not quite as smooth, but honestly, it's not that different. So I think I'm gonna actually bring the Kaida. Yeah, and then the advantage of the Kaida is you have the longer length as well, but I think the cast is better, but it feels a lot heavier. Cast is smoother though. I think I'll bring this today as well. All right, today I brought only some teeny weeny flies, mostly tied by Jason Class. And I think I'm gonna start with this black spider. All right, I lied, I'm gonna start with this dark watchet. Jason Class tied this for me specifically with this stream in mind. It's pretty small, it's probably a size 16, maybe even 18. But the water is very calm, very still, so we'll give that a try. We'll start there. The other thing we're trying out today is this new Nirvana on the Fly collapsible net. So this is gonna be a first time for this net. And we'll just see how it does. I'm gonna hook it to my belt here and just leave it out. But this case actually looks great compared to the Daiwa net that I also have. This case is more robust and seems like the belt loop is a little sturdier. So this already looks really nice. The hoop is probably about maybe 10 inches. So we'll check that out. All right, we are rigged up, ready to go. Of course, we're talking about this rod, which is the new Zerosum 7.3 Oni from Nissin. I really like Nissin rods, and I really like the prospect of a full cork grip. I love the way it patinas, love the way it feels, like the hand positions. So we're gonna fish this, and then we'll talk more about comparison to other rods. If we have time, we'll fish some of the others I brought. And here we go. All right, I got casting space overhead. Let's just start searching. Oh, got one. Oh, got one. Oh, nice. Okay. Little guy. Little guy. Wow, I wasn't paying attention. I was thinking of something I wanted to talk about. And there's a fish. All right, so right away, nice little fish. Nice little rainbow. There you go, buddy. So right away, first rule of fishing applies, which is like when you're not trying to catch a fish is when you catch a fish. But little tiny guy, first fish on the rod. The other thing I was gonna say was this stream, this is about as low as this stream gets, and I shouldn't say that too loudly because Mother Nature will be like, yo, hold my beer, here's 3 years of drought. But so it's gonna be about stealth and finding where they're hanging out. Okay, so that fish came right out of this little pool. Now let's see, we got overhead space, pretty much. Let's see if there's anything in this pool. There we go. Oh, that was a bite. This stream is notorious for you thinking you have clear casting space above you, then there's just one little dead twig that takes your fly. There we go. Oh, that was a bite. So I really like the 290, 300 length for creeks like this. The rod is short enough that you can navigate around sticks, brush, all kinds of stuff through tiny little openings without worrying too much about breaking the rod or the tip. Okay, how am I doing overhead here? Not bad. Let's try to hit that little pocket right there. This stream changes so much depending on, I mean, I'm sure all streams do, but this is one I'm on, so this is what I'm talking about. Changes so much based on how much water is in it. Because sometimes it's just torrential flow. And then other times it's like this, just very, very still. You can already kind of tell casting-wise, it does not have the finesse of the Coco 290 or the Kurenai. It's a little more just heavy, stickish. But it feels like when it's at the end of the line throw, it kind of stops with a jerk instead of like unrolling really silky like the Coco 290 and the Kurenai. Kind of just like bloop and like spits it, which is just more like a stiff rod. Oh, I caught a stick again. Dang it. There we go, there's one. Another teeny weeny in the net. Oh, this one's even cuter. Oh, tiny little fish. Tiny little fish. Hey, bud. I mean, there's 12, 13-inch fish in the stream, but this ain't it. This is a certified minnow. See you, dude. Someday you'll be big. Bye. It's right there. Cute. All right, let's keep going. Two tiny little fish. I think if I knew I was catching only microfish, I would be on the Kurenai, because it just is, this rod's overkill, for sure. I saw Tom Davis was fishing the 345 length of this rod and catching some lunkers in Idaho. And I'm sure this rod would handle, 15-inch fish as well. I think this rod would probably be a perfect bet for when you know you might have some bigger fish, but you're on a small creek. Big fish, small creek. Whereas the Kurenai, if I knew I was catching 16-inch fish, I wouldn't use that rod. But for these micros, that would actually be more fun than this. It's a much more relaxed casting stroke, effortless. And then when you get a little tiny fish like that on, it's just more fun. There's one. There's one. Oh, off. I almost said bigger fish, but it looked like it was maybe 4 inches instead of 3. This pool's pretty deep too. I'm gonna bet on there being a bigger fish by these rocks. Just kind of get there and place the fly well without snagging overhead or being seen. Let's crouch down. There we go. That's a better fish. There we go. That's a real fish. Okay. Here we go. That's a real fish. Oh yeah, it's a big one. Here, bud. Oh yeah, that's a great fish. That's a super fish for this stream. Awesome. It's a great fish for this stream. Probably 8 inches or so. And exactly kind of where I thought. Very likely spot for a larger fish. The flex profile reminds me a lot of the Fujiru Nissin rods. But yeah, did great. Was able to steer them pretty well. All right, in that spot, patience paid off, but very deep spot, nice overhanging rocks, good places to hide. That was not surprising to find a larger fish there. So let's keep looking for spots like that. There's fish. Oh, the teeniest one. The teeniest one. Oh my God. This might be the smallest fish I've ever caught on tenkara rod. All right, this is almost not even a par. This is like a fry. Look how tiny this guy is. Oh my God, so adorable. Look how tiny he is. All right, bye-bye. All right, so I like this little fly because it's allowing me to catch those adorable little fish, which makes me really happy. And I was able to get one of the sort of normal sized fish on it. So that's nice. Oh, there's another one, yeah, a bunch of fish. Yeah, this is a good spot. There were fish down there. Is there still a fish down there? I don't know. Probably not. I'd be very surprised if there's not a fish in here. There we go. That was a bite. I knew there was a fish in here. Let's do it. Come on. No, not again. Second time around, I'm gonna choke up on this handle a little bit. Let's make my casting stroke a little shorter so I don't keep snagging that overhead tree. Yeah, I mean, it gets super deep right there. There's no way there's not a big fish at the base of that. Probably spooked it now, but... Oh, wow. This fly has no more hackle. I gotta put on a new fly. Look how beat up this fly is. Maybe that's why I'm not getting any bites. All right, I'm gonna try on a new fly. All right, this is a really cool little fly. It's like a little futsu with a single glass bead on the top. I don't remember what Jason Class calls it, but I'm thinking for a pool like this, that glass bead's gonna help it sink a little bit. See if we can catch this fish. There we go. Oh, that was a bite. All right. I don't think it was a big fish, but that was definitely a bite. All right, moving on. Can't spend all day in one place. But yeah, so deep there. Sure, there was a big fish there in the last half an hour. Gotta be something over there. There we go. Oh, that was a very clear strike. Yeah, this 290 size length rod is just one of my favorites for this size stream, because you can sneak in all kinds of spots. There we go. Oh, it jumped at it. It was a mid-sized fish, maybe 6 inches. Did I get a second chance? No, not the tree. Always that first cast. It's like you get one chance, and then they either wise up to it or they get spooked and move on. Cannot believe I'm not catching a fish right here. Cannot believe it. Another good opportunity here. Good little pool. Maybe I already spooked him. There we go. Oh, this fly, I'm telling you. It's the third time that someone's bit the fly and it hasn't set. I don't know if it's the stiff hackle in front of the hook or what. My hookup rate on this fly is bad. It's been a long time without a fish. Some days it's weird. You feel like you're not the only one fishing. I've been following this great blue heron up the stream for a while now. He hasn't caught anything in a while, neither have I. No offense, dude, but I want to come through. Thank you. All right, we're back from the creek. These are all the rods I brought with me that I had hoped to fish, but the fishing was super slow, so I only fished the one in question, the Nissin Oni Zerosum 295. So we'll start talking about that. What do I like about the rod?
And where do I think it slots in with the other rods of this length that I have? I love the grip. I love Nissin's grips. I love the rounded butt cap. I often on short rods like this, hold it like this, and that rounded butt cap that Nissin rods have is the best, the most comfortable of any rods I ever have. The other great thing about this grip is you can, if you choke up, you still have a nice thick thing to hold on to. So there was trees overhead at one point and I choked up, down, whatever it was, to shorten up so I could still cast, and I still had a nice place to grip. Now I'm a big dude, I'm 6'5", I got size large hands, and I do appreciate a grip like this. As opposed to on the Coco 290, this is, well, first of all, it's just plastic and it feels like plastic. Whereas a nice organic material like cork or like wood on the Nissin Airstage Fujiru, I just love this wood grip. Just so nice. But a nice organic material just feels better in your hand. It feels warmer. I don't know. It's got a je ne sais jus, right? So I love the grip on this rod. I absolutely love the grip. It's so good. In terms of weight, it's very lightweight. The Oni Coco is 0.9 ounces. This is twice the weight of that at 1.8 ounces, but it's still very light. And the other rod that I would compare it to is the Dragontail Kaida, and that's 2.4 ounces. We'll get to that more in a sec. How does it cast? So the Oni Coco 290 and the Kurenai HM30 are just like magic wands. They weigh nothing, they disappear. It's just like, it's a buttery smooth, relaxed type of a cast, right? And they both have that. The Oni's a little bit zippier, a little bit snappier, and it's got a little more backbone, so I think it can handle bigger fish. But both of these casting actions are just so wonderfully relaxed. And this isn't quite that. It flexes a little bit more like the Airstage Fujirus do. So this is the 330. They don't make anything shorter than this, but the Airstage Fujiru has a similar casting profile in my experience, and just from today. This is the Airstage Fujiru 5.5. I haven't fished the 6.4, but this is sort of mid flexy. So I love that. I like the weight of it. I think the casting experience on these two rods, the Kurenai and the Coco 290, is exceptional. It's unmatched. It's just amazing. For a small rod like that, it's so pleasurable. But I don't love the grip. I mean, it works. It's fine for a rod like this. I also have the 39 and the 45 of the Kurenai rods, and when you get to those longer lengths, I actually wrap tennis wrap around the grip to make it thicker, because when it's effortless and lightweight, you can do it like you're conducting an orchestra, but you can't really do that when the rod gets bigger, or it's not comfortable for me. And I've spoken to a lot of other people who just don't find these little tiny grips comfortable. And so it's really nice to have a full-size cork grip. And that's a rare thing on a rod of this size. Tell me in the comments if you know of other ones that are like this, but I don't know of many that are under 300 that have a full cork grip like this. And the rounded, don't forget about the rounded butt cap. That's the best. Okay, other comparison. Well, okay, so here's a rod that's sort of like that. This is the Shimotsuke Gen 2.4. This is a 240 rod. I bought this for my son. Full cork grip, $55. Fantastic deal. If you have a child, get him this rod. So the other comparison that I really think, after having fished this, is apt is the Dragontail Kaida. The Dragontail Kaida is one of my favorite rods. I'm never parting with this rod. It is small size. You can put it in your pocket. It's a great adventure rod. It's two lengths, the 285 and then 320. So I'm going to compare it at the 285 length. At the 285 length, the casting is similar, but this is 1.8 ounces. This is 2.4 ounces. So it's heavier. It's not as lightweight. The cast is not quite as smooth, but it's not that different. This is a fantastic casting rod. It's got some fiberglass in the mix with the carbon, and I really just love this Kaida rod for a small creek rod. And I think compared to these, the Coco 290 and the Kurenai, I think both of these rods can handle a little bit bigger fish. Not that, I've seen Tom Davis with pretty large fish on the Coco, but the Kurenai would be exceptional for those fish I was catching today. 2-3-inch fish, 4-inch fish. The Kurenai would make that a total laugh riot. It would be so much fun on the Kurenai. You'd feel every twitch. It would feel like a big fish. It's just so much fun. So if you know you're targeting fish that are under 12 inches, like the Kurenai and the Coco are great choices. And the Coco could go more than that. These feel like they would be more comfortable with larger fish, 6, 8-inch fish to 18-inch fish, who knows? And so the casting is not quite as smooth, not quite as buttery, but these both feel very similar in use case. Small creeks where you might have big fish. And the Kaida is maybe even more versatile because it has the 285 length, which is almost the same as this 295. But then if you get to a place where it opens up, where you have more space, or you need the reach, you can just zoom it out to the 320 length, and you can zoom it back. And I really think under 300 is perfect for scrambling around these kinds of creeks. You see what I'm doing? I'm like ducking under stuff. I'm pointing my rod tips between branches and trying not to break it. Anything more than 300, and it gets more and more cumbersome as you get longer, in my experience. 330 is like the max I like for these small creeks. So huge plug for the Kaida. And let's talk about price real quick. So this rod was $200 shipped from Japan. This is the Zerosum Oni that we're talking about. $200 shipped from Japan. The Coco was $190 shipped from Japan. I don't know the price on the Kurenai. I know Chris Stewart from TenkaraUSA is going to carry the new version of these, which is the AR instead of the H or the HM. And I know that their tip section is not quite as thin and flexy, but I think it's still going to be a fantastic rod. And actually, I think with that tip section that's a little more robust, it might be like a carbon copy of this Oni Coco. They may be almost indistinguishable if you were blindfolded, but I might talk to Chris and get one of those just for comparison purposes. But both of those are $200 rods. The Kaida, however, is $140 shipped from the USA, and spare parts are available and they ship immediately. Brent from Dragontail is fantastic about that. So if you want a USA made small creek rod and you want all the conveniences that come with that and an affordable one, look no further than the Kaida. And I have the Foxfire, and I gotta say I don't like the Foxfire as much. It's just too much of a loose noodle. It's fun, but I much prefer the casting stroke of the Kaida, and I've had a lot more use of it in that respect. So that's a lot of talk. Sorry about that. I'm gonna have to fish this a lot more to really get my thoughts down for it in terms of how much I love it. But so far, it's a great small creek rod. It's a great creek rod for me. I love the grip. I like it better than either. I mean, there's just something about non-plastic, right? And that's the trade-off, right? If you were fishing for, small fish and you want to have the most blissful experience, I would say one of these guys, the Oni Coco 290 or the Kurenai 30. But if you want a full-size grip and you still are in a small creek scrambling around and you could get into bigger fish, I think this is going to be a fantastic, fantastic choice. The only other thing to mention is I also fish this new net that Brent from Dragontail was carrying. It's a 10-inch round rubberized netting so that you don't hurt the fish. And then you can stuff it in the pouch on your belt like other folding nets that you've probably seen. Or you can just travel with it like this in your bag and then hook up a little magnet for your belt. That's what I did with it today. Put this in my bag, got to the stream, and then just carried it open on my belt, and it was great. It's a great net. I love the netting. Size is perfect for the stuff that I do. Just another great net, great product from Brent Dragontail. This has turned into like a Dragontail commercial, sorry, and not sorry. They make great stuff. So that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed my first look at this Zerosum Oni. It's a great rod if you want a small creek rod, you want a Japanese rod, you want an Oni rod, this is great. If you want the ultimate Oni experience, the Coco is your bet. It's just smoother, it's more Oni. This is the mini type one. This is not. This is the mini 395 Honryu. That's how they slot in. So now I'm rambling. It's been way too much rambling. I'm sorry about that. I hope this video helps someone because I know when I'm looking for a rod that I can't just go pick up and swing, it really helps to have people compare them to maybe a rod that I have or I know and get advice online. So I hope this contributes to the internet wisdom and I hope it helps someone. If it has, great. If not, I'm sorry you had to listen to me ramble for like 11 minutes about fishing rods. Anyway, tune in next time and thanks for watching. I'll see you again soon.